Hello guys, welcome. Now in this tutorial we are going to create a new flow, and this time we are going to invoke the second operation of our external service. So if you go back here to your external service, you see under this external service you have two operations. One is this one and the other operation is this. So in the previous tutorial, we invoked this particular action, and now in this tutorial, we are going to invoke this action, and what this action does is it creates a new record in our source application. So we will also create a screen flow. We will capture all the employee information, and then what we're going to do is we are going to invoke this action. We will pass all that information, and then in return it's going to create a new employee in our source application. So if you go over to this source application, currently how many records are there? You have total of 28 records. Now what we will do here is we will go over to the flows and we will create a new flow, and this flow, first important thing is going to be a screen flow, and I am going to create a screen here, and in this screen I'm going to enter the employee information, the employee that I want to add in my source system. So here I'm going to say input screen, and the first thing that I'm going to ask the user to enter is the employee first name, and the next thing is I'm going to ask for employee last name. Then we will ask a field, let's say number field here, and this is for employee salary, and then the other one we'll add is the date, and this is for employee date of birth. All of these we are going to make it required, so the user have to enter the values, and that's it. And now we will go ahead and do the done. We have created an input screen, and on that input screen a user is going to enter the employee name, the first name, last name, the salary, the date of birth, all of those four information. And then what we're going to do is we are going to invoke our action, and that action is already there. Okay, so if you go to the action here, you are going to see under this external service you have another action called as create new employee, and when you see this action it is asking you something in the form of body. Now what is the type of the body? It is basically nothing but that Apex class that it has been created, and that is the same value it is expecting of the same type. So first thing is we need to create a resource here, so I'm going to go ahead and create a resource of that type. So if I go here and I'm going to create a variable, store the employee information to be sent as request body. It automatically did this. Okay, and then next time is what is the data type? It is going to be an Apex defined, and what is the class? The class is, if you go to the external service, or let's say we look for the world Deepika, see what we find. We find this is our external service name. It has these classes. Create, so if you hover your mouse, this is employee in body, this is employee out, this is the class for out on a 200 response, and this is the 200 attributes. So this is the type of the body. If you see here, this is the type, and I'm going to go ahead and make it available for input and output. This is my Apex class, and it got created behind the scene. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit the done here, and now my resource is available. Right now that resource has no value, it's empty. So we will set the value of our request, right? So we're going to go ahead and use assignment here and set up the request body. What is the variable we created? This is the variable we created. What store the employee information. Now the employee first name is coming from where? Employee first name is whatever the user has entered here, that is what will go as the employee first name attribute. Similarly, the last name is going to be equals to whatever the user has entered in this field, the last name text field. Similarly, the employee salary is going to come from this employee salary here. And similarly, the last field that we are going to be sending is the employee ID, and that is going to be available in this field. Oh, we don't even have the employee ID. We have date of birth. So let's say we will look for the, okay, so if you see here in our component, we don't even expect the date of birth. So what we need to do is employee ID. So what I'm going to do, that let's leave it here, this one, and then do the done here. And on this screen, we will add another component, and actually this date of birth, we will change it to ID. Okay, this is going to be employee ID, and done. And now if you go set up the request body, add the assignment, and over here this time we will ask for employee ID. And where is this employee ID captured? It's going to be captured over here. And now we have set up our request body, right? So first what we did is we created a screen to get all the information. Enter the first name of the employee, the last name of the employee, the salary of the employee, as well as the ID. Once we have received all these 4 pieces of information, our action is expecting something in the form of body. And what is the type of the body? That is that Apex class. So what we did was we created a resource of that type. And then what we are using an assignment to set up that body with all the right values. And once we have done it, now we can invoke our action. And what is the action? So if you go over and look under this external service, and this is the action I'm going to invoke, and use values. So you can say here employee successfully created, and the body is nothing but this one. That is the complete body that we are sending. Remove the dot. We are not sending one property, we're sending the whole request body, and then done. And then if you want to add another screen, a thank you screen, you can do that. And this is nothing but a thank you screen, and we'll just display a message. Thank you. Please verify if the employee successfully got created in our external system. And then we're going to go ahead and do done here. Everything is all set up, and this is the Open API create new employee. This is a different one, and hit the save, and we are going to activate it. So if you remember, we had how many records? 28 in our source application. And now we are going to debug it, and we will go ahead and run this flow. I'm going to enter first name here. Let's say we call it as Sukhdev Singh. Salary is salary is 600,000, let's say. And employee ID is Y789. And then hit the next here. This is going to be a problem. It's expecting a date, and we are not entering a date here. So let's just enter a date. My bad. Let's go ahead and hit the next here. Now, if you see, what is the response? See here, it failed. If you see, what is the response? Default message is employee ID data value too large. Error code is there. So this time we got a 400 response because ID should be small, and now what you're doing is you're doing it in a different format. It's sending you in a date, and if you go over here, actually no record has been created. You did not see any record getting created, and it is still shows you 28 records. Now the problem is, if you go back to your flow, now if I go to this flow here, the first thing is in your input screen, this is of the type, if you look at it, this is of the type date. You don't want date, right? So what I'm going to do here is, okay, it's saying if I try to delete this, it says you cannot delete the screen component yet. Remove all the references to the screen component and try again. The reason you cannot delete it is because it is being referenced here. So first thing is we need to delete from here, and then do it done, and then come over to this input screen, and then try to delete this from here, and now you should be able to delete it. Then what we're going to do is we are going to deploy a text component, and this is for your employee ID, and we call it as employee ID 2. This is required, and then hit the done. And over here what we're going to do is we're going to add another assignment, and we will say store the employee ID that is coming from where it is equals to this one. Which one? Employee ID 2. That is the text where it is going to have the employee ID, and whatever user has entered here, this is what we will pass on in our body. Okay, and then done. Now everything else is as is. What we did was, the problem was in the previous screen we dropped a date component, and in that date component you were trying to send it as an ID. The date field is date field, ID is a string field. That's why the record was not able to be successfully created. So now you saw when the error happened, the response was in a different code. It was 400. If it was successful, the response was 200, right? In the previous cases we saw. So here the employee ID, in the previous time we were sending it as a date, but at the source system it is expecting of a different type. It's a string, it's a text field, right? And the value was too long. So that's why it failed. So now if I go ahead and do the done here, and now we saved it, everything looks good. Now let's try to activate it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit the debug here, run the flow. This time I'm going to enter the same information, Sukhdev Singh, salary 600,000, and employee ID will say Y7890, and now let's go ahead and hit the next. And tada! If you see here, the output is 2xx, the response code is this, and it is saying it was successful and there is no errors. ID is also there, means the response returned you the ID of the newly created employee. And if you go over to your source application, right now it's 28 items. Then I'm going to hit the refresh here, and I'm expecting the 29th item getting created successfully with the name of Sukhdev Singh. If you scroll down here, this is where you see Sukhdev Singh, and this is the salary, and this is the employee ID. So what we did was, this whole integration was very seamless. We created an external service. Way we did was we provided our open API, and through the open API we added 2 operations in our API, and then we invoked those operations using our flows. Simple. And the name credential, the endpoint and all that, we already provided it when we were creating this, already provided the name credential. And this is the name credential which has all the information about our source system, how to get authentication, how to authorize it. All of that is available in this name credential. So now what we have done is, so far you have seen how to do HTTP callouts from the flow. You have talked about creating the open API and creating an external service, invoking it from your flows. I hope you guys are enjoying these tutorials, and if you have not yet reviewed the course, I highly recommend you to do that. If you really enjoyed it, please give me a 5-star rating, and that motivates me, encourages me, and keep me going. So your words are really powerful, and do let me know if you love the course, and do provide a comment as well in the review so that I can read it and makes me happy. And if you really enjoyed the course, please go ahead and tag me on LinkedIn, share with everybody that you're taking this course, make everybody aware about the course, and it's just happy to connect with you. And just go over to the LinkedIn and please try to connect, and I will be happy to accept your friend request. Okay, and thank you so much, and looking forward to the next video. I'll see you then. Take care.